The fear of not having anything is the biggest driving force to create something, if you are willing to get out of it. I had my mind, I had my health, and creatively, every little step I took to do something, I knew was going to lead to something bigger. I just knew it.
I am an African. Africa, where it all began. The cradle of humankind. Rich in culture, diversity of resources, the silver, the gold, and its people. Legacy, passing down something of value, resources, ideas, information from one generation to another.
There cannot be any success in your lives without the willingness to live with what you regard as inconceivable.
African Legacy Project. They inspire and build.
Mind, body, and soul. That is what luxury cosmetic brand Africology stands for. Founded 17 years ago in the kitchen of its founder, Renchia Dragonis has gone on to build an incredible African brand. Distributed globally in over 14 countries and a product line with 171 products and 4 fully fledged spas, Africology has gone on to be one of Africa's most sought after and iconic brand. She shares with us her legacy and her journey on building one of Africa's most strongest brand and is a firm believer that success does not happen overnight. This is African Legacy Project.
My name is Renchia Dragonis. I'm the CEO of Africology, a beauty, skincare, cosmetic company who I believe is making a difference in our country. So I was born in a little town called Vereeniging many years ago. It was really just a short little while. It was kind of a birthing place. And shortly after that, we moved to a town called Kempton Park, in a little suburb called Cresslawn. Almost kind of forgot where it was. I was very much an only child living with my father. Just the two of us. My parents got divorced when I was very, very young. And it was really where I wanted to live, was with him. We are 7 children. I'm the last born in my family. And my parents got divorced when I was about 3-4 years old. Coming from a family of 7 children, being the youngest in the family, they were all very much married already and with their own families. And I lived with my dad, being alone with him most of the time. There was a lot of responsibility for me at a young age, as there was no mom in the house. I had to take care of myself, often also being just aware of my dad's needs and take care of him. My dad was a loving dad. He was very strict. When I turned a teenager, he said, okay, you're a young girl now and you have needs, so you're gonna go and find yourself a job and you're gonna pay for your own personal needs. At the time, I was really angry at him because most children had support from their families to look after them and do things for them. And that was his way of, I think, cultivating inner strength in me, endurance, and the ability to take care of myself. It's so amazing because you had to be 16 years old to find a job. So I had to lie and say that I was 16, I just don't have an ID. I'm still waiting for my ID to come. So the minute the checkers, Pick and Pay, are kind of circulating everywhere until I was found out and I had to leave. From shoe stores to just packing little gifts in gift stores. And somehow I made it my mission to always find a job, even though I was underage. My relationship with my siblings was very much an occasional relationship. We didn't have much time that we really spent together. Just growing up as an adult, I've just realized that I've never really had the privilege of a real family home where you wake up to your sister and you can go and have a chat with your sister about things. I feel that it's something that really lacked in my life. When I look back in my life now, it's what I think gave me the audacity to just take life on, take experiences, and know that I can do it. Because from a young age, there was very little support for me in my own personal emotional journey. I had to create my reality. And I know that that was my gift as a child. In college in Kempton Park, where I did a lot of my studies to be an accountant one day, secretary. Those days, that's what every young girl had to do. I met my husband, and he sat like 2 chairs ahead of me. He was 4 years older than me. And I thought, oh my God, he is just so sexy. And you know how girls kind of look at this guy and you really like him, but you don't think that he's going to like you. And somehow we managed to speak to each other, fell in love, and I had a child soon after that. I was a very young mother who had to work incredibly long hours, 7 days a week. When I had my second child 2 years later, I came out of hospital. I had really 2 days that I could take time off and back into the business. And it's a story I always tell people, that I used to raise my children in this cafe under a counter. And when I breastfed the babies, I used to have them in a little blanket over them, serving our customers. And 15 years later, having 4 children, I was working and raising children in a store. Something that I look at a lot of young mummies today, and again, look at the privileges that they have, and where I really had to make it work with 4 children in a business. Kids used to have the business really as their home. They would come and play in the flour and the bakery, and we used to keep them entertained, making their own little dough and little cakes. Those days really taught me tenacity. There wasn't time to be sick. There wasn't time to be ill. You had to use your heart and your mind and talk yourself out of it, because I had to be in the business. We couldn't close the doors because I was ill and I couldn't do it. And I guess every business person will know that when you have that responsibility of your own business, you're not just working for someone else. There are certain privileges that you really don't have. And your sense of self and your own needs when there's an illness or there's a sadness, just really a bad morning, you have to keep going and you have to keep doing what you know you have to do. I was going to be trained to be very much administration, money, bookkeeping, accountancy. It really didn't happen. I ended up getting married very young and had my children young. We had our own little business, which was a cafe those days, the Greek cafe on the corner, and a bakery. So that was really my education, was learning how to bake. There was a very difficult time that happened in my life when I got divorced. Business, we lost the business. I was a mother, a single mother with 4 children, and had absolutely no finances. It was a stage that was really hard. I couldn't find a job anywhere. No one wanted to employ me. And I knew I had to survive. So I had to create my own little business with absolutely nothing. While we had our business in the bakery, I used to be there at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I used to study. So I started studying psychology at UNISA. Long distance studies, all I really could do while working and having children. So when I was faced with absolutely nothing, I made my own little business cards, took my children's pencils, and wrote business cards, because you can. If it's meant to be, it's up to you. You can never say, I can't do it. And I started giving my business cards that were hand-drawn out to people. And I did a little bit of life coaching. And then from life coaching, it really became to that place where I understood the pain that people had in their hearts and minds were really expressed in their bodies. And then I discovered massage, and then I went on little courses for massage, and I learned how to counsel people but also work with their body when there was pain logged in the body. That for me was the beginning of my ability to create the very first business I had. Being a single mother with only a studio at home that I worked from and 4 children, It was one of my biggest challenge to sustain well-being, to put food on the table. I lived mostly in my studio where I did my life coaching, where I did my counseling, while the kids were alone at home. They had to learn to take care of each other, cook their own dinners, but they all knew that if we worked together, we could survive at the end of the month. Again, I look at my own childhood and there was all these needs that I wanted to be so different from my own family, but there was this line of wisdom that was kind of passed on. I had to do it on my own then. I had to do it on my own when I was a parent, but I passed on the gift to them. Although they were with me and not on their own, they still had to look after their own needs while I was busy working hard to support their needs. And I think every woman has that sense of sadness when she can't be there for her child 100%. But knowing that we can look after our children kind of brings a sense of peace of mind and a knowing that it's all okay. From those moments, those experiences where I would sometimes fall into my self-pity of just not being there for my children, and then going out into places like Diepsloot, Garankuwa, Soweto, where I did a lot of motivation for the youth at a time when our country was very angry. I would come home and count my blessings again and know that it was okay, because there were many, many other women who had to leave their children behind in a village somewhere to come and work. And they still didn't have the privilege that I had to at least know that I can go and kiss my children goodnight at the end of the day. Being in a place where you had financial support, your needs were taken care of, and then suddenly you're on your own and there's nothing. We lost the business. We owed lots of money to the banks that I didn't even know we owed as a woman. I wasn't part of the financial journey. There was that incredible fear of what am I going to do tomorrow? I often recall moments sitting with my children where we couldn't buy milk and we didn't have food for 1 or 2 days. And I knew I had to keep it together. I knew I had to not let them fall into a place where they buy into that fear that I had of absolutely nothing. So we used to play games, and we used to get magazines, and we used to cut out food, and we actually visualized and pretend to have dinner that night. It sounds so sad, but again, there was a gift in that. The fear of not having anything is the biggest driving force to create something, if you are willing to get out of it. And that was for me my inspiration to take the next day and know that I had a breath in my lungs. I had my mind, I had my health, and creatively, every little step I took to do something I knew was going to lead to something bigger. I just knew it. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew that I had to be in that moment and just make that moment work for me. Life coaching has taught me that it's not just about coaching people on how to deal with issues in their life. It's about understanding them, understanding their bodies, how the body holds stress, how the body holds an illness that really comes from the heart, emotional processes that we go through. And so I wanted to help people heal on a deeper level than just communicating or just giving people a massage. And so I was inspired to make my very first cream in my kitchen on my stove with aromatherapy oils. And knowing that when the client left my studio and they could go home and apply their body lotion or apply their moisturizer, that the healing would continue through the products that I make for them. For me, nature is really important, and it's something my mum used to teach me about herbal tinctures and plants. So she always used to make us teas when we were little kids to help us heal. And a lot of my journeys into rural areas led me to work with traditional healers. And I used to teach them how to do Reiki, and I used to teach them how to do crystal healing, and they taught me a lot of what they did. And so we had the most amazing journey together in healing. So when I would make my products, I knew that plant matter held the most amazing amount of wisdom and healing energy, so that when we applied onto our skin, we didn't just touch the skin, but we touched our soul at the same time. So for a product to be healing as much as it is to be in a massage room where we're physically doing healing on the body, the two had to work together. Soon after that, of course, people speak. One of my clients had told in a hotel about what treatment she used to have in my little studio compared to what they had in the spa that she went to. And they called me to make them a body wrap. I have never made a body wrap, and at the time I didn't even know what a body wrap was all about. But of course I said, yes, I can do it. It took me a while because I had to go and investigate the authenticity of a body wrap and what is it that a body wrap was supposed to do for the body. I discovered chocolate body wraps. I discovered body wraps that had talc in it, and I was horrified, because what the wraps really did was harming the person rather than healing the person. Keeping in mind my background is all about healing. It's about truth. It's about being honorable in what we give. It took me a good 6 months to try and put something together. All the while the hotel called me and said, when we phone product houses, they supply us straight away with a product. We keep on begging you to give us a product, but I couldn't tell them that I didn't know how to make a body wrap. I finally find the way, and with divine inspiration, that's all I can say. I knew exactly what ingredients to use, and each plant matter that I used had a story and what it could do for your body. And I knew that the synergy of putting those 4 ingredients together, something beautiful can happen to the human skin when we apply that. I did my own trials with the neighborhood, and all the friends' parents would come for a body wrap, and I had to learn how to do a body wrap. And when I could see a difference, and I knew that it was really going to make a difference, did I sell my first liter to this hotel spa. God has always got the most amazing way of allowing your intention to unfold and for a miracle to happen. At this particular spa, there was a mummy who had a little boy about 6 years old who had psoriasis on his little toes, and his biggest dream was to be able to swim in a swimming pool with all his other friends. The spa manager gave her a little bit of this body wrap and said, try it on his little feet. I'm sure it's going to help the psoriasis, because that's what they say it can do. The miracle happened. 3 days later, the little boy's toes started healing. And that was the luck, I guess. So the products I made in the kitchen was purely just used for my own clients that would come to my studio, either for counseling sessions or for massages. And once I made the product, my body wrap, for a hotel spa, they became our very first clients, and I didn't know anything about really wanting to go out and sell. So they asked me exclusivity. Did I know anything about exclusivity other than I'm committed to serve you? That's all I knew. And I gave them 2 years exclusivity. And within that 2 years of people using the products in that particular hotel spa, there were so many requests that I had for other places to sell them the product, but I couldn't. I had an agreement in place. And that was my first lesson in business, is never do exclusivity, because it's something that just boxes you in and it prevents you from flying. And the ultimate truth in business, you've got to sell and make money in order to grow your business. You can't just sit in this little box and just keep surviving. You actually have to grow it. Once the exclusivity agreement came to an end, it was amazing how many people approached us. We never had sales reps that had to go out and sell Africology until the last 2 years. We're still very blessed that people come to us. And that for me is always a sign that we're doing something right. because we teach that in our retail stores. Every one client that you have pleased and that is happy, the rule of 10's going to come back. Every one that you didn't serve and you didn't do right, there's 10 that's not going to come. So for a business to rely on marketing alone can become very expensive. A lot of trial and error in marketing as well. But when you do it right and you have a company culture where people who eventually start joining the family and they become part of your family is aspired to be part of your journey, they're going to create that comeback. And that's what's happened for Africology. It's the comeback that really matters. I remember driving home, and as I was driving, I thought, I need the world to know what the real essence of Africa was really all about. This is just something that's really bigger, but if you take what's happening, maybe in the whole of Africa, and you look what's happening on a microcosm in your own world, with your own relationships with either your husband, your friends, your mother, your sister, there are 5 emotions that come up. And the biggest one is acceptance, abandonment, being rejected, fear, and how to live with yourself and what is important for yourself. So I knew that Africa was really teaching humanity a big, big lesson. And how could I take what Africa is teaching the world and go and teach everyone else? All I had was a little studio at home and my ability to go out and speak to youth. And it dawned on me that I could take the product that I was making in my kitchen to heal people in my own little studio and maybe put a label on it and let the product become my driving force to educate people about humanity and what healing really is all about. It's not only about beauty. What is real beauty? Beauty is your ability to come from your heart, your mind, and your soul. It's compassion. It's love. It's true. If you don't express love to another human being, you're not going to have it on your face. If there's continuous anger, if there's superiority, that's not beauty. And so Africology was born. The word came to me in a meditation. And when I went to go and search to register the word, I came across a university subject called Africology, and it's the study of Africa. And that moment I knew it was the right thing. That was the name that I needed to put on my brand. Africology is the essence of Africa. It is the pain, it's the injustice of humanity, but it is also the beauty of Africa. It's the rich resources that we have and using it without exploiting people for it. And at the same time, giving back consciousness in what is true. It's self, it's developing the self, it's honoring the self, it's honoring another human being. And that is your healing journey. And for me, that's Africology. From a body wrap, we've developed the range into a complete skincare range, bath and body, and of course for all spa therapies as well. Our approach is very holistic, so instead of having the traditional approach to 4 skin types, we look at the skin from a holistic perspective and we say, what is it that the skin need? So we address certain needs into the skin, so very different to what other cosmetic houses do. Our product lines have grown to most probably about 160 different products, candles, massage oils. We're very blessed to work with Richard Branson and his hotel groups in Africa and South Africa, which this product is beautifully available in the hotel rooms and in the spas. We have a contract with Sun International as well, so we take care of all the VIP clients in their suites. We have 2 of our beautiful spas is in Sun International hotels. And our expansion into retail over the last 3 years has expanded really beautifully. We've got 2 retail stores in Rosebank, Parkhurst, and in Cape Town. We distribute to about 17 different countries. We've expanded quite a lot in Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Zanzibar, England, France, Belgium, America, Turkey, to list a few. Africology is looking at global retail stores worldwide. Our setup with our Africology store in the waterfront in Cape Town has just shown us the incredible potential where the world comes to Cape Town. The world is at the waterfront. We had fans of ours standing outside the store when we opened screaming, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, I never knew that we had fans all over the world looking for Africology. And that moment was my aha moment that said, you're ready to take the risk now and go and invest in another country and set up your retail stores. Our first one is planned for London, hopefully by the end of this year. And I think we're going to take Africa, and from my heart's place is what we have here, and showcase it to the world, because we're not really a third world country. We have so much here that we can compete with in the world. What is it that you put in your product? Is it something that you're going to use that really is going to heal? Or is this just a commercial product again? And I think that's the biggest lesson I learned from my friend Selby. And then just moving forward and meeting more healers and being able to go to this incredible ritual every year where marula needs to be blessed before you can use the marula. Again, something I never knew. The world doesn't know that. But the essence of sincerity and honor is what I learned the first time I went for a marula blessing ceremony with healers in Bushbucks Ridge. 4 o'clock in the morning, drumming starts. And listening to that drum in that silence and seeing the sun set, there's a divinity there there's no words that can express what happens when that happens. Can you imagine a fruit that we take advantage of and we eat it, suddenly being honored? And there's a blessing from these traditional men where they bless the fruits and they thank the ancestors for giving us this fruit. And marula being one of the most vital elements for vitamin C, building up immunity in your body. How fabulous that we can show honor. Is kind of what Africology is really all about. What goes inside of it has to have an energy that is divine, that is special. It's not just the fruit, it's the healers behind the fruit. It's the blessing that happened to the fruit. It's the ancestors behind all the plant matter. It's the history of where we are that needs to be honored and valued and then be shared with the world. And that was my incredible journey with what traditional healers have taught me. Creating our spas was one of our most exciting journeys. For me, it was taking my healing room in my little studio at home and placing it into another environment where we're now bringing it to the world on a bigger level. Our therapists get training based on how I used to do healing, traditional healing methods that Selby would have taught me, honoring that, teaching the world about that. We have a treatment called the Shaman's Healing Journey, which is just so fabulous. It's a treatment that Selby and I created together in terms of working with energy levels, bringing plant matter into the treatment, and the therapist becomes the shaman, and she connects intuitively with the guest's body and being able to tell the guest what's happening in her body and why it is happening and what she'll need to work on emotionally and maybe spiritually to create a shift. Was one of my most inspiring projects ever in my life, is to create the spas and transferring that gift to another therapist that she can then transfer to a guest that comes and visit our place. The spa design had to be very carefully designed. We had very limited space in which we could design, but we made it work for us in terms of a therapeutic flow that can take place within those spas. when we got to the stage where the business really needed more money, it was very hard to go and get money because banks really don't want to help you when you're small because you're high risk. Every little cent that we made had to go back into the business. There were no privileges of buying cars or houses or furniture. We really had to go with very little. I remember there were days where the kids would come back and say, I really need a salary, 2,000 Rand a month is just not working for me. And it was like, yes, it's going to work for you. You've got to sacrifice. There's sacrifices that we have to make. But then I was also blessed that I had a client who came to my house and saw what I did in my studio outside of the company work that I did for his staff in terms of life coaching. And he was very interested in helping me, so he gave me an investment amount, which was really a loan amount. But again, I had no business experience and there was no contract. Nothing happened to do it legally. But his investment helped me incredibly to get packaging, to pay for imports of larger amounts of packaging where I could save cost on it. And 2 years ago, we managed to pay him off a huge amount of money. So he made most probably about 200% profit on his investment and having faith in what I did. And it's not often that you find people who make such an amount of investment, but also who's prepared to help you or can see the potential of investing in a business that have legs or wings, so to speak. That was really the break that we needed. Paying him back all that amount of money kept us as a family a little bit behind still because it was a priority to make sure that that money could leave us. Now that he's paid, we live with the same philosophies. Don't pull the money out of the company, keep it in the company. And so last year we set up our own laboratory and our own manufacturing plant. So the lesson again in business is be sustainable. Don't just prematurely take money. It's a long-term investment. Whatever you make needs to go back into the company. Absolutely pure aromatherapy oils. So every fragrance that you smell is a fragrance that we've made up ourselves. Being in business, there's moments that you do want to just throw in the towel and say, I've done, can't do this anymore. The biggest issue for me is people not showing up when you rely on them to show up. And you know that that production can't go out. They're not here, there's no phone call, nothing happened. Or the shippers didn't arrive in time. And you know that kind of need that shipper to come, so if I'm going to be really angry on the phone and set the boundary with them, they might really not come. Those are the moments when you just go, can't do it anymore. Or your raw material supplier has decided to not keep any stock for you. Or there's no more marula oil left from the community that you've always bought the marula oil from. And someone else has come in and they've bought the whole harvest. And you know that they're not even a local person. And I go, where's the justice in this? It's not what's going to happen, and it's not how we want to trade. But then breath, the deep breath again, and just knowing that we've come too far to allow things like that to stop the process from happening. And And again, it sometimes reminds me of a scientist. When you're in a lab, you try and create something and it flops, you fail at it. Do you just give up and close the door? No, you don't. You go back until you find the right way of doing it. And it's become a bit of a culture in our company. We keep on saying, if it didn't work today, you have to work at how to get it to work tomorrow. Don't just turn a blind eye and let it go. It's past, it's gone, it's over now. It's not over. Because somewhere along the line, it's going to come back and get you again. So it's to learn from it all the time and just to have that inner faith that it didn't work today, but it's going to work tomorrow, as long as I can work on it. When I look back at where I came from, where I moved into and where I am, and I look at 150 other families that are supported, their families have got food on their table, they've maybe just bought a new car, a new house. I go back to our farm and I look at our farm manager who once milked cows, and he owns his own house, and he's got maybe 50 sheep that he can have the farm to use for his own development. I look back at that and I think, what is the gift that matters the most in life? Is that what I was given, I could pass on. And it doesn't come from victim consciousness that we just give because we have to give. It's about giving where it really matters and to the people who themselves have a desire to be somewhere. And to know that every little beginning can lead to the most magnificent thing. And I look at Africology and it brings me joy. And every moment I step into my front door, I show honor to our Creator for that blessing. Energetically, I have a belief system that your intention is so big. If your dream and your vision is as big as your intention, the amount of money that will follow will get you there. But it's got to start with you. It's got to start from your desire here to create something that is meaningful, that's purposeful, that brings you joy. Being authentic in what you want to deliver is really what's more important than the money. And we have a philosophy in the company that we don't make money. We service people from our highest good and keep focusing on what really, really matter, and the money will come later. So there's been many moments that, you just don't grow as fast as other brands do. You've got the ideas, they've got the money, and before you know it, they've taken your idea, they've run with it. And you have to kind of step back again and say, it's okay. We can't do the cheap, we can't cut corners. We have to continue with the intention. And so it has taken us a longer time period to grow than what we could have. Fear is one of our biggest demons. It's what keeps us in prison. It's the one thing that challenges for me your authenticity, your sense of self, your ability to take an emotion and actually separate yourself from the emotion so that the emotion doesn't influence the mind to believe something to be true that is not true. I know that there are many people who have had heart attacks when they're at the prime of their being in their business. And I often think about that, and I look at myself when I go through that incredible stress, that fear of how we're going to do it tomorrow, is to come back and call my spirit back and say, I will handle it when I need to, instead of giving fear permission in that moment to paralyze your logical thinking, your ability to find solutions. And we all do that. We allow fear to put us in a prison that is not a truthful place to have been in. And for me, in my journey, there's been many moments of fear. There's been moments where I went to go and cry, but I've learned to give myself 2 minutes and say, that is it. Get back up, put on your boots, tie those laces, and go and find the solution. Because you can. I wish I could say that success can happen overnight. Maybe it can, but I think sustainable success that's going to take you for years to come, and success where you build a brand to get to a place where the world can see your brand, I don't think it happens overnight. I think it's a fantasy, and I think it's something that maybe can deter a lot of people from sustaining that beginning phases in a business and give up too quickly because they just didn't make it, or you're in overdraft and you don't know how to pay your overdraft. You have to learn to go and speak to the banks. You need to learn to go and negotiate with them. It does take time before money really builds up into a heap of money. So can it happen overnight? I wish I could say yes, but I doubt that. My startup was, I think, one of the most probably biggest challenge you can have in a startup. We had one telephone, there was no landline. I had a computer, I had a small little printer that I could print out of. I had no help. I couldn't afford to employ people because there wasn't money to employ people. I had to work from early in the morning until very late at night, 7 days a week. I had to take bottles and fill them with cake decorators because I couldn't afford a filling machine. And I think if you know that it's going to be hard, and in the beginning you have to wear 5 different hats. Once you've mixed the products, once you've filled the bottles, you pack the boxes, you seal the boxes, you take off your clothes, you put on a nice little apron, you put on a little hat, you get in the car and you pretend to be the driver. Because you don't have a driver, you're going to be the driver. And when you get back home, you got to go and work again. As a family, we had to cut labels with scissors because we couldn't afford labels. It's what you're going to have to do until you can. The truth is there is no cash flow. And you have to do as much as you can do by yourself. I think a lot of startups fail because the minute you do start seeing a bit of money coming in, the money leaves the business for what I call self-gratitude. Someone asked me once, how do you relax? How do you manage your stress? And my answer was, the truth is, there's going to be stress. There isn't going to be time for relax. You have to embrace that and know that as a truth. When you know that as a truth, you know you're going to work for the love of it. You're going to put your every hour into it. You're going to do 2 people's work, but you know that there's an end vision or there's an end goal that you work towards to. Keep that in mind, because if you can work with the plan and the sacrifices are there, there's a bigger thing that you're going to give birth to, and that's how it worked for us. Understanding the next level of growth globally or going internationally takes a lot of research and know-how. There are a lot of rules, and every country has got a different set of rules. So just producing the products under an ISO certificate is one thing. It's the labeling, it's the registration in a different country. And at first it's quite daunting, it's a bit scary. You don't know what you do, you don't know who to speak to. I remember trying to just register the products in Tanzania, which was more difficult than America or England. No one answers the phones, no one replies your emails, but there's clients waiting. And again, just to have that persistency, that endurance, and keep on trying. Don't stop at one door that's closing. For us now, we've had to set up a little international division, and full-time we do research of what's happening in that market, making contact with the local offices and finding people that you can actually speak with, having a cup of coffee with, and how does it work? What are your needs? So not only relying on an email or a phone call, keep going at it. Don't, if they haven't answered that call for a month or a week, we don't just leave it and we don't just wait for people. Research the market, understand their needs. When we start doing our labeling, we now look with our artist at 4 or 5 countries' needs and what they need, and how can we conform to 4 places, maybe in one offering. Because it's big and there are different needs that must be met. And again, not knowing them, you have to research all the time. Reading is so important. It's the one thing that makes us wise. It gives us our ability to maneuver in this world. I remember my most inspired book was by a man called Al Quran, Bring Out the Magic in Your Mind. Marianne Williamson, A Course in Miracles, Wayne Dwyer, Deepak Chopra, people that I keep on buying these books, I keep reading them, I highlight them. In my darkest moments, I'll go back and I just take a book off the shelf and I open it anyway, And wherever I had highlighted it before, that message kind of motivates me again to see life differently. So I think everybody's bookshelf has to have at least 10, 15, 20, 100 books on educating yourself on how to be a better person for yourself. I'm living my best life. To know that I had ultimate choice in life to be a victim, to blame the world for where I was at, or everybody else, is something that I can honestly say I created it because I really wanted it. And this is my best life. I know that when we're all going to close our eyes one day, what is that song in our heart that we wanted to achieve in life? Did we listen to it? Did we play it? This is my best life. My legacy is about empowering women to be authentically aligned with their needs, their wants, understand themselves, and know that anything is possible. You don't have to be a victim if you have nothing. You have every opportunity to empower yourself because you want to. You can create whatever your heart really wants to have. And Africology is really about educating women on authenticity, being self-empowered, and I hope that that's the legacy I can give people.